Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Structural Noetic Astrology on Sunday. I've been away for a couple of weeks. It was vacation. I spent a weekend in Paris with Greg Braden and Bruce Lipton, and I gave a talk for the Metaphysical Congress in Rosmalen in the Netherlands last weekend, which was very exciting. Of course, giving lessons as well. So it's been a pretty busy time with the book also. But in one of my more recent classes, I got a question from a student which set me thinking, and it was basically where and if we can find the soul in structural noetic astrology. So that's the topic I wanted to talk about today. And today I'm going to try to share my screen with you to help explain some of these things. So let's take a look at that here. And we can take a look where we can find the soul in structural noetic astrology. So, of course, there is always the question if there is a soul to begin with in philosophy and also in spiritual traditions. And if so, where do we find that in the horoscope? And there have been great spiritual thinkers who have thought about it. For instance, I recently came across a Medium article by a dear colleague, astrological colleague, Armand Diaz, who wrote a comparison about the question of reincarnation. Do we reincarnate as an individual soul or not? And he mentioned that Krishnamurti said that, well, we do come back as energy, but not as any kind of individualized soul with specific memories, emotions, etc. Whereas Sri Aurobindo had the opposite thesis, namely that there is a sort of individualized soul or spiritual essence that returns to physical carnation repeatedly with possibly memories and inheritances from those former lives. We do know in any case that modern science indicates that energy cannot be destroyed. Moreover, the quantum physics experiments have shown that energy is related to consciousness. It is sensitive to it, it reacts to it, and seems to express it. Ergo, it seems that our conscious energy that makes us up as a human form does not die. Ergo, there may indeed be a soul. So the question is, where do we find that in astrology? Now, old forms of astrology seemed to link this concept to the moon very often. And still today, people think that the moon is the repository of the soul. In my opinion, that does not seem to be accurate, given that the moon is a very physical object to begin with. And the soul is not physical, even if it is related to an individualized expression. Secondly, the moon in astrology is very much based on our need to feel emotional security, to feel a sense of relatedness as by blood and family, etc. And that does not seem to be something that a metaphysical concept of the soul, of a soul, would actually have any need for. Traditional astrology also lists the South Node in the horoscope as a place where you can get information about the soul, about past lives. But whether this is actually the repository of the soul seems unlikely to me, being as it is the expression of an interaction between orbits. In my opinion, if we want to look for a soul, then we would have to go back to more ancient, look at more ancient structures of the cosmos. You see that the Babylonian structure and the Hellenistic structure were quite different. Whereas you see in the Babylonian construct, there is already a sense of duality, that is, 7 planets which are visible above the horizon, and the 7 so-called Earths, or those which are hidden to sight. But in the Hellenistic structure, there were only the visible planets and luminaries were used, and they were placed in types of polarities, which is a type of dualism, but it is the duality of the physical world, the ego and that which is not ego. So where can we find the soul in a structure which only deals with that is visible? And that's why I believe that structural astrology really offers an adequate answer to this question. We see, of course, that in the 1600s that the Hellenistic structure of the cosmos was first undermined and then shattered by the discovery of Uranus in 1781. To add insult to injury, Neptune was, sorry, I have the Dutch spelling there. Neptune was discovered in 1846, and of course, Pluto in 1930. So the old rulerships of the planets were very much shaken up, as well as the whole idea of how to fit these new planets into the existing structure. Of course, in the 20th century, Dom Neroman took Kepler's proposition a step further and explained what the consequences of this ellipse orbit would be, namely that each planet and luminary would have 2 centers or foci, which in contrast to the 1 center of a circle. A point at which every line on the orbit is equidistant. With an elongated orbit, of course, you need 2 points, and the sum of their distance to the various points in the orbit will always remain the same, wherever you look in that orbit. So that's the purpose of 2 foci in the center, the balancing points in a ellipse. So these 2 foci are different, of course. If we look at the orbit of the moon, of course, one of these centers is actually occupied by a physical object, that is the Earth, whereas the other focus, the other center, is not occupied except by invisible energy. It is an invisible energetic point, and that is why we call it the black moon point, the point that is related to that focus. Black meaning not that it is dark, but that it is such tightly compressed energy that it is not visible, similar to black holes and their intense concentration of energy. So it would seem to me that any energy or collection of energy which is reincarnated, whether it be an individualized soul or not, would be better represented by this immaterial focus of energy, namely the black moon. And in our analysis of horoscopes, we can see that all of the unseen planets, including the as yet undiscovered planets of Persephone and Vulcan, that they are related to the visible universe. And so you see that the new structure which structural astrology proposes actually is a definition of the universe, both in its physical and its immaterial form. So let's see, how do I end this? Yes. So having some trouble here with my screen sharing. Stop share. Yes, there we are again. So, in my opinion, that in order to talk about the way of the soul, the way of consciousness in astrology, it's absolutely necessary to take these two metaphysical points, the black moon and the black sun, into the whole structure of astrology. And these are, of course, the two aspects of consciousness of knowing and love. And to also recognize that the planets which are invisible are similar to the physical planets' relationship to the sun and the moon, namely that they are vehicles through which the universal consciousness can be experienced and deepened in our lifetimes. Okay, so that's all for now. This weekend, of course, I'm going to be giving the first of the 7-part series about structural astrology starting on November. There's still an opportunity to sign up for that. Please go to my website, www.en.devlinderpraktijk. That's DEVLINDERPRAKTijk.nl. The link is also underneath this video, and sign up if you want to learn more about the black moon and the other aspects of structural noetic astrology. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.